People who like modern jazz are usually extremely smart, and people who like traditional jazz are usually a bit untidy or dowdy.
A trad boy, what I like in trad boy, I like long hair, long in the front, white stiff collar, striped shirt, a tie, coloured, wear a short jacket, not a smart one, but say an old riding jacket or something. Very, very tight trousers, striped, and either pointed shoes or boots, quite popular. Now you want a trad girl? Long hair, untidy, long fringes, jeans and big sweater or dress, unusual colours, sort of bright, never patterned, or if they are patterned, they're very primitive patterned, never floraled or pretty little dresses, rather dirty looking.
Oh, very posh. It doesn't sound like my idea of well turned out. Perhaps I'd have been more at home as a modernist.
The modernist boys are smarter, but they're getting so smart and worrying about what they look like so much they're getting as conceited as what the girls are. I find of all the boys I know, the modernist boys, they're always worrying what they look like, always looking into mirrors and patting their hair down and putting it into place. They're much more conceited than girls.
Yes, at about time too, and why not, I say. But what did men wear for jazzing it up?
Well, short jacket, 2 little vents at the back, 3 buttons, single-breasted, maybe blazer, striped Italian blazer, Italian rounded coloured shirt, usually navy blue, white or red. Trousers with no turn-ups, usually 16, 17-inch buttons, pointed toe shoes, you know. That's about all. And they wear big black overcoats with big pointed collars or white Macs. You know, it's all derived from the French and the Italians. The girls, you know, wear the short hemline, seamless stockings, pointed toes, high-heeled shoes, variety of their own type of short blazer jackets or sweaters. And their hair's usually done up in usually kept quite short in comparison with the trade girls. They do it up, or they have the elfin style, you know.
Well, I don't really know what the elfin style is, but it sounds very nice and cosy. But where's the sense of adventure, the spirit of rebellion? Roll on the emergence of the teenager.
Police were called to 5 cinemas in London and surrounding districts last night to deal with excited young people creating disturbances during the showing of the film Rock Around the Clock, which features rock and roll music. Teddy boys and girls dressed in the so-called Edwardian drapes and slinky skirts, respectively, started by clapping hands. They progressed to banging their feet to the tempo of the music. As it grew faster, they left their seats to dance in the gangways.
You seem to have a very wide collection of clothes worn by Teddy boys. You've got drain-pipe trousers, you've got draped suits, you've got winkle-picker shoes, you've got creepers, you've got, what do they call, Slim Jim ties? 3/4-inch ties, yeah.
Hairstyles adopted by Edwardian youths are finding favour amongst boys attending secondary school. Boys in various parts of Britain have presented themselves for the autumn term wearing frizzy mops or lengthy locks curled at the ends. For these, they or their parents pay anything from 5 shillings to £2 a head. In most cases, however, headmasters are instructing the boys to return home and have their hair cut.
Yes, I agree with that one. Discipline, that's what they needed. That or a touch of hair grease.
It's flat on top and it sort of goes up at the sides and up at the front and then comes forward at the front to a sort of quiff. Now, a touch of the hair grease. Always use this special imported American hair grease as used by Elvis, and then brush it all into place.
When you go to work, if you mix with other people who wear a conventional style suit and conventional shoes, etc., you don't mind while you're at work. But when you come out the tube and you've got to get home through the neighbourhood where your friends live, they mustn't see you around shoes, so you sort of hide underneath the umbrella or sort of pull the collar up on the Mac and sort of rush home, and as soon as you get in you sort of strip down and with great big long winkle pickers and tight trousers and brush all the way forward like Adam Face and sort of rush around and play on the latest records. You sort of live 2 lives, as it were. One is the routine of the office, And as soon as you get on, the second is the sort of mad life of the teenager.
Yeah, wicked on your head. Brilliant. I don't write 'em like that anymore. But this calls for an explanation from a specialist.
I maintain that today hairstyle can be enhanced with the right kind of colouring because with colour you can create optical illusions of height, width, which can help a hairstyle. If you're creating a hairstyle with width, you can get added width with the optical illusion of colour. On the other hand, at the moment, height is the all-important in hair fashions. Therefore, concentrated colour on the top can give added height where you haven't got the hair to be able to do it physically.
That sounds like Becky Lynch's hairdresser, but how does one create an authentic beehive look?
Lots of rollers to begin with. Then one takes the rollers out, and then you backcomb it like mad, and then you just sort of mould it, and then use loaded hairspray.
According to the fashion observer Ernestine Carter, by late 1959, the Italians had a lot to answer for.
On top, women tottered and still teeter on Italian stiletto heels. And as espresso bars sprang up all over England, they gave a setting to the pale-lipped espresso look, which culminated in the final squalor of the Black Stocking Brigade. Hair boldly took on colours and shapes that nature never intended, with women making a beeline for the beehive. What began as a London-based fashion, the Edwardians, or Teddy Boys, has now moved out to the provinces, gaining popularity with the rise of the rock and roll style music. Significantly, it's now the Teddy girl who's for the first time ahead of the fashion. She wears a slink skirt in heavy tweed, has doe eyes requiring the use of mascara, and the same high necklines as before. Well, we've seen the fashionable 50s. As we move toward next year, we want to know whether we'll be the stylish 60s.
Youth culture is now well and truly flourishing. More than ever before, style depending on a fusion of having the right clothes and liking the right music. Brian Epstein wasted no time in getting the Beatles into suits, but even those clean-cut looking boys caused a generation gap to widen.
That lusty chorus came from a bevy of young ladies standing out here in the rain. Doesn't seem to be bothering you. Lady in front of me with a splendid Beatle haircut. What do you like about the Beatles?
All their clothes, their hairstyle, they've got, their smashing voices, they're just fabulous. Well, I like all their clothes and their voices. They're the best looking group out, and they've got gorgeous sound, and they wear fabulous clothing.
How much of this is getting popularity by acting the fool a bit and playing around?
Well, I mean, that's just natural. We don't do it, we do it anyway, whether we're on stage or
funny
not.
haircuts, aren't they?
Well, we don't think they're funny, you see, Copper.
Yeah, well, I think they're a bit odd, but even so, clothing manufacturers were quick to sign the Beatles for adverts aimed at young people. Adults were just as quick to express shock, particularly at their hairstyles.
Can the team explain why a bunch of unattractive, unkempt youths bawling down a microphone can drive young girls to frenzy?
I can't understand why girls dressed in what looked like slung-on ex-railwaymen's clothes and wearing jackboots. I can't understand why these girls should drive all the scruffy males to distraction either.
Perhaps the pudding basin haircuts and the guitars will go down in history too, and own property and film companies and studios and the lot.
The general manly look is slim and comfortable. Lapels have very little filling and their peaks are soft, half-notch, rather higher than before. Pockets have flaps but slant slightly more. Turn-ups are almost at the peak pouch. The width of trousers is 17 inches. Waistcoats are back, but they vary from those once associated with the slightly older gentleman. Shoes have a long, slim look, and in some cases feature a subtly offset toe shape. Anyone can wear these, not only men with subtly bent feet. All this, then, and some more, is the international look for the well-dressed man about the world in 1963.
Fashion in menswear is something like fashion in the pop world. I mean, a couple of years ago, we had all solo artists, We had the the big thing for Cliff Richard and people like that. And now the complete thing has changed the other way. We've got the Beatles, we've got groups, you know, and we dress about 90% of the pop groups in this country. And from this, we get terrific inquiries because these people are the young people's idols, you know, and consequently they sort of imitate them in their hairstyles, they imitate them in what they wear, they imitate them in the way they walk. You know, all this is a terrific bearing on young people's dress.
By 1964, a new star was moving centre stage and rapidly becoming the biggest teenage group Britain had ever seen. The Mods had first appeared at the beginning of the 1960s as a minority cult based in London and restricted to boys.
This kid used to work in the bank at the top of the road who had very, very short hair, always wore a nice suit, very sort of clean-cut kid. He was also an outrageous mod. His hair wasn't just short, it was also a very subtle French crew, so it was very sharp and in fashion. His suit was made out of tonic, which was very, very important. It had to be tonic. It would be in that month's colour, which would be either dark brown or dark blue. The lapels would be the exact correct width. It might be a 2-button jacket or a single-button jacket. It might be a 3-button jacket with the bottom and top button left undone, whatever happened to be the vogue at the time. It might have single pockets on either side that might be straight or slanted. There was a craze also for several sort of secret inside pockets. So one tended to fold one's jacket over like that, put one's hands in one's pocket, holding the jacket open so that people could see that you had the right number of inside pockets. It was a way that people could be legitimate, fit into society, and yet at the same time still be outrageously fashionable and in crowd.
Mods provoked strong reactions. Their attention to detail and obvious vanity was considered effeminate. They were particularly loathed by the rockers, whose dress and manner were obsessively masculine.
Mods pride themselves on cleanliness and elegance. Why then are they prone to violence in more than their music?
The rockers that started, you know, they screw you, and if you take on that, you know, look you up and down and think, funny way of dressing, you think you're a puff or something like that.
Of course, they're better equipped than you, aren't they? They've got these big boots, for example.
Yeah, that's what they go out for. That's what they wear all that stuff for.
What, to fight?
Yeah, to fight. That's why they wear all them chains and hobnail boots.
By the way, they're dressed, the makeup and that they have on them, and the eyeshadow, and high heel boots and that. Sometimes I fancy them myself.
I tell you what they say. They say that you boys go up to them and stare them in the eyes, screw them, as they say.
Oh yeah, well we think they're girls sometimes.
If you go out of a mod, you wouldn't, everybody sort of looks at you, you wouldn't know if you was looking at the girl or the boat, would you?
Most of these mods, they leave school at 15, straight into some unskilled job, just so they've got a bit of money to spend on clothes, on a hairdryer, on their makeup, of course, and all their lipstick and that.
Very nice, sounds a bit like me.
I met a boy in the Lyceum Ballroom in London, and he looked fantastic and he had the most beautiful clothes, but he couldn't string two words together. In fact, he was a porter, a meat porter, and I didn't care about that. The only thing I told him to do was not to speak. When I got him home, I said, for God's sake, don't speak, because I knew that I would get, done at home for bringing him in. But I thought as long as he had the clothes, I could walk down Streatham Highway on Saturday afternoon and I'd be the toast of the place by Saturday night.
What's new? By the middle of the decade, the 60s were really swinging, with London leading the way for international pop style. Mary Quant was as famous as her clothes. She aimed to design clothes which were fun, fresh and youthful, and she modelled them on Twiggy and Jean Shrimpton.
Well, at the moment, I seem to have the feel of what people want, and I seem to get bored just that those few months earlier of the look before, and to naturally be getting the next thing.
What inspires you when you're designing? What makes you decide that girls with the in-look must wear shiny PVC raincoats?
The PVC thing, I think I used that before anybody else did, because I saw this new fabric. It was the first sort of man-made stuff I'd seen that didn't just imitate wool or didn't particularly have a texture, or weave anyway. It had something all its own, and it was a new appearance into the fabric altogether, and it was terribly exciting stuff, and I was crazy to use it.
Londoners, at any rate, had been startled by the enthusiasm with which many young women have adopted the high boot. Mary Quant, of course, in her recent show, put her mannequins into thigh-length boots. But most of those seen on the streets only reach to the calf.
Everybody knows boots.
I go round our shops and I watch these young people trying on goods. And from this, I get an idea of what they want without them actually knowing what they want. I've noticed that the young lads over the last year have been putting on those little square jackets, and sort of pulling them down at the back, So this tells me something. It tells me they want their jackets a bit longer, So consequently, the following season, our jackets a bit longer, like hipster trousers. A few years ago, I was in the shops watching a kid, and we were putting on trousers and kept sort of pulling them down off the waist, And they didn't realise what they wanted to say. Right away, I contacted their factory and says, right, let's experiment here. We've got to drop the waistband on the trousers. And from this, we get ideas which are very good. And basically, the young people are the trendsetters. It's from them that we get these ideas, and this is how it goes on.
Seek him here.
In Carnaby Street, which is the centre of our menswear fashion in this country, every day in the week, we have people from America, from Italy, we have them from Germany, we have them from Sweden, people in the trade actually looking in amazement at our fashions. In fact, they can't believe it.
What does swinging London mean to you?
Carnaby Street, I guess. Swinging London, Carnaby Street, and the shimmy dresses. Well, I think it's really groovy.
Now I'm with an American gentleman, the head of a family of 7 who are just inspecting Carnaby Street.
And we decided to come to Carnaby Street for the girls. They had to come to Carnaby Street. Yeah, they're quite thrilled. I'm amazed.
Had you heard of swinging London before you came here?
Yes, we had. The children had.
What did you expect?
I don't rightly know.
What do you think of the clothes?
Well, I hope they don't buy them too short-skirted. I'm kind of shocked, really.
Oh dear, it doesn't take much to start off a moral minority, really, does it?
I've never said anything but the best about Chelsea. I've never been critical of Chelsea at all.
You were critical of their miniskirts?
No, I didn't. I never criticized the miniskirts at all. I said I was more worried about mini-morals than I was miniskirts.
Well, he probably owns one himself. But as miniskirts get going up, there was also a short-lived trend for necklines to come down. The topless dress was one of the 60s more obscure fashions, but some cool chicks were willing to try anything once.
I think that's fabulous.
Fabulous?
Yes, I do. Really fabulous.
Would you buy one?
Yes, I would.
What would your husband say about it?
I don't know, but I'd still buy one.
This has been coming for years with the bikini, and I think with the trend of fashion that before long people have forgotten all about this. It's just a gimmick.
Would you like to see your wife or your girlfriend wear it?
I wouldn't mind seeing somebody else's wife wear it.
Yeah, I bet you would. Okay, what about you, madam?
Oh, I think it's a disgrace. Disgusting. A girl that work like that, she ought to have a good, blinking good hiding. And I've got a daughter 55, and if I thought she had to work like that, I'd never own her.
I've come into the shop now to talk to a young lady who just bought one of these dresses. What do you like about them?
Well, I like the fashion. I like the low neckline. It's as bad as it looks, anyhow, in the window.
Where would you wear it?
Parties, an occasional dance with my husband.
What's your husband going to think about this?
I don't know if I get home.
As British groups grew more experimental with everything as well as their music, and the American West Coast sound took off, so fashions developed along the same lines. Hair was long, caftans and jeans were in. Colour was bold. I'm talking about a psychedelic experience. Let's do the hippie shake.
People are calling you dirty, smelly, a load of hippies. Why do you go around like this with your hair down to your shoulders and various, I don't know quite the messages are written on your trousers.
Well, I just like it, I don't like any fuss or anything like that. I might, get scruffy and that, but I'm not hurting anybody, am I?
But isn't it true that people turn around and look at you when you dress like this?
No. If they look at me, I'm not bothered, I get used to it.
What about the girls around here?
They like you just as you are, just scruffy and that. If I come down here, I had clean jeans on, shirt, tie, clean shirt, tie. They'd hardly speak to you.
Sounds as if they could have done with some flowers in their hair, or perhaps even bells.
Well, I knew there had been a very big increase in the budgie population over the last year.
but I certainly couldn't think for 1 minute that the thousands of budgie bells we've been sending out are all going to budgies.
But what was your reaction when you heard that the bell boom had been sparked off not by budgies but by Britain's hippies?
I was surprised, but not very surprised, because these people, they like pretty things, and our bells sound nice.
What about these capped collars that the hippies are also demanding?
Well, these are a special collar which we had made for people who want, well, their cap to look a little bit prettier than the one next door. And we don't sell very, very many of them at all. They're special lines. But suddenly we got a very, very big demand from a pet shop in the market in Chester. And I went along to find out what was happening to them. And sure enough, I found that the happy people were coming along to buy these too. At, I might add, something like 20 to 29 shillings a go.
Well, I do wear my hair long and reasonably outrageous clothes. At the moment I'm wearing a purple scarf without a shirt. It's just unusual and I think almost delightful to wear it just with a pullover. I think colour in clothes goes in big sort of rhythms with me anyway, and most students. Like a pendulum, 1 month maybe it's purple, and then perhaps very bright colours like pink and lime green. If people look at you often enough, you really think, well, now I am something special. It boosts your ego. People do look at you. You like it. Your tie's pink, and your trousers are pink as well, and they don't wear pink trousers.
Well, the most advanced designs we're offering now is in what we call the 10-inch check, both in jackets and slacks, and these are in really exotic designs.
I wish the listeners could see some of the colours. We've got a lilac and a bright scarlet in front of us.
Very short skirts indeed. Hipster pants, crochet tops, berets.
We have 4 designers working on these caps, and there's just no limit to the colour combinations we're doing in them.
Some of the most sober-minded people, you'd think people who wear the sort of dark greys and the dark blues, and that's all they'd ever go for, but believe me, they're all coming in wearing brightly checked slacks and sort of lovely fancy coloured jackets. I think it's great fun.
I think the erotic principle is transferring itself back to male clothes. I think we might get back to Henry VIII, who was the first of the white boys, if you like, with wildly exaggerated shoulders, every kind of gorgeousness, legs in tight stockings, and a codpiece. Well, we haven't got back to the codpiece yet, but the tight jeans are something pretty near it, aren't they?
We are getting back to the almost doublet and hose look for men.
Indeed.
The long shirt with the heavy belt outside, the very tight trousers, but then it's very flared.
As the 60s turned into the 70s, the style in music and clothes went through a rather indiscriminate patch. Unisex was a buzzword. Asian hippies and their bands characterized a nation of long-haired youths in flared jeans.
I think the film Tommy really released it and made it butch for a guy to have his hair permed. We did Roger Daltrey, and men sort of thought, if he can have it, we can have it. Why should they look any older than their girlfriend or their wife? I mean, just why should she be the gorgeous-looking lady blonde?
Sounds like my hairdresser. Obviously a man ahead of his time. Unfortunately, not everybody was so open-minded.
To what fashion a man wears, it seems to me these days that it's absolutely ruined by the appearance of his hair, which, unless it is grown over the collar, pop star fashion, is, considered by other men as being out of fashion no matter what he wears. I firmly believe that these days the only way you can differentiate between a man and a woman is the bust. No bust, no hope.
He obviously isn't looking in the right places. Rock acts like Rod Stewart and Slade performed to a fairly uniform crowd, the latter homing in on the skinhead fashion of non-fashion, bother boots and bases.
When the skinhead cult came along, we just went along with it, and it gave us an identity, good or bad, you know. The press reacted badly to it, the public reacted badly until I saw it, and gradually built up, into what it is today. The thing is, you find the kids coming to watch her,
in the clothes that they're used to seeing you wearing.
We never liked to be classed as a glitter band. We used to dress up flash and everything, which was all help to put the show over. But we were never into the makeup or the sort of camp act at all.
But the art of showmanship was far from dead. Lurex, glitter, makeup, already known to Bowie fans, hit a wider audience with the arrival of glam rock.
I've always been into a visual thing, because I enjoy it, but I never gave it that much thought, and I still don't particularly. Like even that glitter thing, I mean, what happened is my wife had some glitter on her thing, and I just spit on my fingers and stuck it under my eyes. And I went out to the next concert, it was about 2 days after doing the TV show, and the whole audience was splattered with little glittering babies. But I think that caused a change in as far as, especially with cosmetics, that the guys could go on stage and could use makeup and use things to brighten the act or enhance the showmanship of the thing.
This week, our castaway is the rock singer, Gary Glitter. Our fashion note, Mr. Glitter, who is cheerful but subdued, is wearing a black jacket, black trousers, and a bow tie that's black and white. This is in honor, of course, of Radio 4. No sequins, no rhinestones, no diamanti.
Schoolgirls who walk tall in platform shoes were warned yesterday that later they could experience problems in childbirth. Staffordshire's chief chiropodist, Mr. Michael Arnold, said the shoes could alter the tilt of the girls' pelvis. He said that he also seen an increasing number of teenage girls with various foot problems through wearing platform shoes. The fashion seems set to stay for a long time because of the influence of pop celebrities such as the Bay City Rollers, Elton John, and Gary Glitter.
Eric had the idea, he picked it up from the kids back home in Scotland. You know, when they grow out of their trousers, you know, they're a bit shorter than that, you know. No, but that really is the way. Right, I think I have, isn't it? And then one day we got a letter through the fan, we were down the fan club looking at the mail, and this girl, like Woody, had sent in a drawing of how she'd like to see Woody dressed, and she had these short pants on, and then that was when we started to wear the famous tack. Because she had the stripes down inside the trousers and that.
Woody, Eric, Alan, Leslie, and Derek. Do you remember that song? While Bay City roller outfits were available in the high street, adorning the pages of the national press and the bodies of adoring teenage fans, Radio 4 spoke to the average person in the street to see what they were wearing.
Today we're starting a new series called What We Wear, and we begin with two girls who are clerical assistants with a large firm in North London. When Dilys Morgan talked to them, Denise was wearing black flared bell-bottoms with a black and brown shirt, and Anne was wearing a short brown dress with flared sleeves.
And what about the boys?
Would you describe yourself as fashion conscious as far as clothes are concerned? Fashion conscious, yes, I suppose I am. I would wear flared bottom trousers if they're in fashion. I think clothes are fairly important to me. So I'm looking for something that's reasonably fashionable without being outrageous.
People who were always up and down the King's Road, disenchanted followers of Rod Stewart, David Bowie, Roxy Music, looking for a style that would ultimately free them from looking like clones of those characters. That style they discovered in my shop. The most fearful items, rubber and leather skirts and jackets and t-shirts with marvellous voyeuristic writings. Out of that crowd appeared a group, and that group I called the Sex Pistols.
Tonight we talk to the Sex Pistols, the punk band that EMI believes will become a world force in rock music. Well, Newsbeat's been lending an ear to lead vocalist Johnny Rotten, the one with the flaming orange hairdo, not to mention a safety pin through his ear, and guitarist Steve Jones.
The way we dress now is considered offensive. Now I don't go out to dress offensive to like all the bourgeoisie. I go out because these are the clothes I feel comfortable in.
We're not going to do just go around like straight people just because they want us to do. We do what we want because we want to do it because we know that to do it. What do we care about their dismal opinions, you idiots?
Perhaps the description punk fashion designer is a contradiction in terms. After all, isn't this current trend supposed to be homemade? Nevertheless, there are often some central figures behind fashion trends. As Mary Quant was to the 60s, so, according to those in the know, is Vivienne Westwood to the 70s. When Vivienne Westwood walks through Chelsea wearing one of her own designs, she gets noticed. It's not just the straitjacket top and trousers in tartan complete with bondage straps and buckles. Her bleached hair is styled upright like a soapy shaving brush. Her makeup is shocking pink, smeared round the hairline. She spent the last 4 years designing clothes to shock and threaten. Since concentrating on punk clothing, her main outlet has been Seditionaries, the punk shop run by friend Malcolm McLaren. She knows that a good many punks create their own outfits, but they need ideas, and many like to buy at least a few garments. She's given them slippery drainpipe trousers, bondage tops, and t-shirts printed with pornographic motifs. Her new collection contains tops based on straitjackets, trousers with straps linked at the legs, and mohair sweaters with weirdly distorted arms.
Back in Sloane Square, the Teds, all with quiffed hair and names like Rebel Ray and Rockabilly Steve, were preparing to march on the punks.
I would like to see a punk rocker go out and buy a drape or a drape suit for around about 70 quid. I would like to see that. And if they stick safety pins in it and rip pieces off, then they're bloody mad, aren't they?
They're going to be horrible towards us. Wear our drapes with pins, creepers and everything. Why should they take the mickey out of what we wear?
As the Teds spoke down at the other end of the King's Road, the punks were massing forces and saying what they thought of their opponents.
We don't wear their clothes, we wear what we want, they wear their want. They're out of fashion, see, they don't like it. They've been and done when you, and see, they don't like that.
Many kids were just a bit too young to do anything much but watch punk from the sidelines. It was something you either got into or you ignored. For these kids, punk was the first major music and fashion trend to inspire them. Many of them formed their own club culture in the early 1980s.
A revolution's going on in our streets, and it's putting Britain back in the forefront of international fashion for the first time since the miniskirt made the 60s swing. It's called the pirate look and harks back to the days when clothes were romantic. This latest craze was started in the streets by young music fans, copying rock heroes like Adam and the Ants and Duran Duran. The trendsetters, new romantics as they're called, are fed up with austerity. They've decided to bring glamour back. Punk leathers and chains are out, but pantaloons, ruffles, bandanas, floppy buccaneer boots and Captain Hook hats are in.
Big baggy white pirate shirts. We're selling the pirate shirts now. Big Bowie balloon trousers, you know, waistcoats, wedge haircuts, eyeliner, winkle picker shoes. It's swashbuckling, isn't it? It's an expressionism where you can sort of like feel good in one. You look good and you feel good.
The people involved in this new fashion were called New Romantics. It was a kind of reaction to the punk thing. Punk had become a uniform, defeating the whole object really, and so people were looking for something else to do, and things become much more outrageous, because you had to go really over the top to get noticed. That's when the press started to call everybody gender benders. In fact, I think I was called that once or twice myself.
There does seem to be a lot of cross-dressing, doesn't there?
So you've got Annie Lennox on the one hand, you know, looking absolutely superb and immaculate in men's suits.
And very short hair.
And very short cropped hair, which I think for the rest of this year is the look. And on the other side, you've got George wearing Helen's dresses and makeup and plaits and looking again absolutely wonderful, because it's done with such zeal and with such fun.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. We must do lunch.
Boy George has broken yet another barrier. People can dress as they feel. I mean, I think he's just gone through the last barrier, hasn't he? If you want to dress like a girl, you dress like a girl. Yeah, but, you know, one doesn't have to be Boy George or Marilyn. One can still look like Rod Stewart or, you know, John Smith. You're all right. Don't worry, fellas.
Both sexes, however, were happy to embrace the t-shirt with passion when, thanks to designer Catherine Hamnett and Frankie, everybody was walking around with a message plastered across their chest. Britain spent 600 million in 1 year on t-shirts with something to say. I bet yours said. The t-shirt was also central to last summer's biggest fashion and music craze. The spirit of Ibiza holiday nights lived on in Britain with Balearic beats, beach-style outfits and acid house.
Fluorescent headband, bandana or headband, loud baggy t-shirt, anything with smileys on it, baggy shorts, training shoes. These are what a lot of them are wearing, the kids that are into the acid house craze. That one's 25, that one. Large, they all come in one size. Well, in about June was when we first started doing the acid t-shirts, which are the bright coloured fluorescent ones, because we've got the UV light here as well, so it's glowing nice. That one, the Mindstorm. There's an eye within the television with an explosion, and thus Mindstorm. The smiley. Now that's just your typical smileys with funny circles and stars, and we'll still the old Saturday now. We'll turn the music really loud, put the strobe light on, and have a party in it. How you get on there? All right. A bit too small, eh?
Some people saw acid house as the biggest thing since punk, and they were right. Before it hit the high streets, a lot of the original music and clothes were homemade, sometimes by the same people. It's hard to think of a music style which hasn't got its own distinctive look. Sometimes the clothes lead, other times the music comes first, as if to confirm the intimate connection between the two. French fashion designer Jean-Paul Gaultier has just released a record in an attempt to join the ranks of the pop stars that wear his clothes. I used to be one of them, until I bumped into Matt Goss from Boss wearing the same jacket as me, so I decided to shop elsewhere.
I think that fashion design is like show business. Although always, I made my own music, for my collection. I mean, I didn't compose it, but I cut some part of, I make like a DJ, cutting and making house already. So I think there is that big connection. So it was a very natural evolution. The first people that wear my clothes, were people that were going to discotheque and people like that, the ones that like to do also a rock band. Were a lot, and I still wearing, and I hope they will still do. They will not find competition with my record, and they are wearing. So there is a big connection, of course, with music. And look, it's very, very important how also rock star. How they look, how it can influence the people, and also the fashion. And I think that it's very close together. I think that real big connection between music and fashion. Bye bye.